Hi friends, this video is for Wednesday, February 21st. We're going to be looking at lesson 2.3. This is the last lesson in chapter 2. It's called Evaluating Evidence and Claims. I don't have any place for you to put this in your notes. It's totally fine. We're going to kind of we didn't quite finish with chapter 2, lesson 1 and 2 notes yesterday. We just got a couple key concepts to write down. So I'm going to go back to that and then move forward with lesson 2.3. All right. So yesterday we talked about what can cause molecules' freedom of movement to change. And we had several different activities that we did in the sim. And essentially this is what it comes down to. We have the 4 different phase changes. We've got freezing and condensing, and we have evaporating, and we have melting. Now, if we're thinking about what can cause molecules' freedom of movement to change, basically the substance is going to cool down, or if it's already cold, it gets colder for freezing and condensing. And that means that energy is being transferred out of the substance. And then over on the other side, we've got evaporating and melting. And what happens is the substance is going to heat up, and it gets hotter or warmer, and energy is transferred into the substance. Now, the temperature doesn't change until the kinetic energy increases or decreases. We really made that clear yesterday. And if you're having a hard time remembering that or understanding that, please talk to me, because that's a very, very important concept that you understand. Energy has to be transferred into the substance first, and then it heats up. It gets hotter or warmer or colder if the energy is transferred out. Do you guys remember the investigation question is what can cause molecules' freedom of movement to change? I've got a key concept number 6 for you. So look on your, I think it's page 2, and you'll have, or maybe it's page 3, and I've got a space for key concept 7 and 8, but I do not have a space for key concept 6. I apologize. So just make that go underneath key concept 8. You write your own little key concept 8 on the left side. And then on the right side, go ahead and write in the key concept. So key concept number 6 says, when energy is transferred to or from a substance, it can change the molecule's freedom of movement. We saw that in the sim, absolutely. And so I'm going to give you a chance to write that down. Okay. Do you remember in your chapter 1 notes, you had this graphic? We didn't complete it, so I need you to pull out your chapter 1 notes. If you've got a hard copy, those are probably in your backpack, hopefully. If you've got a digital copy, it's going to be in GoodNotes. The chapter 1 notes, the graphic, this is something that you're going to have to fill out on the test. And the only thing that you need to write is in the big arrows going up on the top and on the bottom. So the first big arrow says energy is transferred into the substance. This happens first. And as a result, we have melting and we have evaporation. So that's why those are all kind of the same color of yellow, because that all goes together. The flip side of that coin is energy is being transferred out of the substance. And when that happens, then condensation and freezing occur, if enough of the energy is being removed. So make sure that you fill in those arrows. Like I said, you're going to have a blank graphic that you're going to fill in for your test. All right, come on back to chapter 2. And we're looking at key concept number 7. This is going to be an easy one, hopefully, for you, because it's one of your definitions. Temperature is a measure of the average kinetic energy of the molecules of a substance. Go ahead and write that down. Okay, and then the last one for this, for today anyway, transferring energy, this is key concept 8. Transferring energy into a substance increases the kinetic energy of that substance's molecules. And transferring energy out of a substance decreases the kinetic energy of that substance's models. I'm going to try something here real quick. This is a lot for you to write. And I think, yeah, I did. Okay, transferring energy into or out of a substance, whoops, transferring energy into or out of a substance increases or decreases the kinetic energy of the molecules. A lot shorter, a lot more succinct and to the point. Okay? We're going to bold this. Increases or decreases kinetic energy of the molecules. You guys know this. It just seems like such a, Amplify really likes their words, and it can be a little wordy. This is a good one. Key concept 8, transferring energy into or out of a substance increases or decreases the kinetic energy of the molecules. Remember yesterday we talked about what we call a direct relationship. So the relationship between energy and kinetic energy is if energy is transferred in and increases, then kinetic energy increases. If energy is transferred out or removed and decreases, then kinetic energy will decrease as well. Okay. So I've got some cards for you, and I need you to interpret this evidence about phase change. And guess what? Guess what? I know you're saying what, and I'm going to tell you. We're going to find out today whether or not that lake on Titan, whether it froze or evaporated. I know, you're so excited. I know it. Here we go. Let's get started. So once again, the Titan Lake claims that there was a lake in 2007. There was nothing there in 2009. It either froze and we see the solid methane, or the lake evaporated and what we see as solid is actually the solid surface of Titan. So we received this email from Dr. Daniela Flores. She says, based on your investigations, we are closer to determining what happened to the lake on Titan. We've collected additional evidence, which I'm now sending you. After you analyze the new evidence, please send me a written scientific argument about which claim you think this new evidence best supports. Remember to explain your reasoning. All right, so on your notes, you have this card sort activity, and you'll see this is the last page of your notes for Chapter 2. I have the evidence cards going down the first row. The second row is a summarization of the information. Now, you may need to use some inference to decide what this evidence means to you, okay? And then we have the claims, either claim number 1 that the methane lake froze or claim number 2 that the methane lake evaporated. You are going to decide whether that evidence supports or refutes either one of those claims. Just because it supports one doesn't necessarily mean that it refutes the other. And sometimes we're going to have evidence where it's like, this is kind of, I mean, it's important evidence, but it's on its own. It doesn't really mean anything. It's kind of stand on its own, and you're going to have to use that in conjunction with another piece of evidence to sort of tell you what you need to know. Okay? All right, so let's get started. I'm going to read the evidence card to you. I'm going to do the first 2. I will model how to read them and how to interpret them. I'll do the first 2 with you. You're going to do C and D on your own. Okay, so evidence card A says, this is an excerpt from the Titan Fact Sheet article. It says, however, because it is so far from the sun, even in summer, Titan is very cold. Its average surface temperature is about negative 179 degrees Celsius. Negative 290 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so we got to figure out how can I summarize this information. And again, I may need to use some inference if I need to. So I'm going to just take this directly from the article and say the average temperature during the summer is negative 179 degrees Celsius. And I'm also going to use some inference and say this is pretty cold, pretty darn cold. Okay? So at any point in time, if you need to just stop the video so you can catch up and write this, do that, okay? So if I'm looking at my 2 claims, if I know that the summer on Titan is pretty darn cold, then I know that the methane lake, I think this supports the claim number 1 that the methane lake froze. because it's certainly not going to support the claim that the methane lake evaporated. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. This evidence supports the claim that the lake froze because it's very cold even in the summer. All right, here's my next evidence card. Evidence card B says, in the region where the lake is found, planetary geologists have not yet observed any summer temperatures low enough to freeze methane. What? That's crazy. In the region where the lake is found, planetary geologists have not yet observed any summer temperatures low enough to freeze methane. Okay, so that means even though the temperature is very low in the summer, it is not low enough to freeze methane. Do you all remember that video we watched with the butter and the oil? And we learned that different substances change phase at different temperatures. So we're starting to realize that maybe even though it's really, really cold, it may not be that cold. It's cold enough to freeze water, and it's really, really close. I mean, very, very cold for a human being, but it's not cold enough. The temperature is not low enough for it to freeze methane. So that means the interpretation is that this evidence refutes the claim that the lake froze. So I can't say this supports the claim that the lake evaporated. There's no evidence here saying the lake evaporated. It is saying it didn't freeze. Okay, make sure that you understand. Even though it refutes a claim and seems to support the other one because it's the first claim is refuted, I can't say it supports claim number 2. There's no evidence showing that the lake evaporated. In other words, what I'm saying is it should still be a liquid, right? There's no evidence showing that this lake evaporated here. So I'm going to say the evidence refutes the claim that the lake froze, sorry, because in the summer, it isn't cold enough to freeze methane. Notice the way that I'm writing my sentence. I'm saying it's supported or it's refuted because, and this is my kind of explanation. Okay? All right. Now, you're going to be left to interpret and fill out evidence C and D on your own. Let me go over it with you. Okay? Evidence card C is just a graphic. And I'm going to let you pause and really interpret, read everything on this card. And then I need you to summarize it. What is this card telling you? And then decide if that supports or refutes claim 1 or 2 and why. Don't forget to put the because in there. Okay, and this is evidence card D. A scientist at the Universal Space Agency says, summer days have more hours of sunlight. Therefore, more energy is transferred to the lake in summer than any other season. I'm going to let you fill out your sheet. Does that support or refute and why? First of all, summarize it. And then decide if it's supported or refuted. Okay, so now I just need you guys to write a scientific argument. In your folder, in today's folder, I have this worksheet. Dr. Flores would like an update on your research about what happened to the lake on Titan. After you clearly state your claim, in other words, you cannot say it was both, explain how the evidence connects to the claim to support your argument and refute the other one. So I just need one piece of evidence to support it and one piece of evidence to refute. If you want to use more than one piece, that's totally fine. Just remember, don't tell me that evidence B supports the argument that the lake evaporated, because it doesn't. Remember to explain what happened at both the macro and the molecular scale. Tell me what we see during a phase change on the macro scale and the molecular scale. I want you to use race, okay? You're going to cite evidence to support and explain, and cite evidence to refute and explain. And I need you to use these words that I have in the box. Okay, so FOM is freedom of movement, evaporation, molecule, freezing, phase change, temperature, and kinetic energy. You need to think about how you're going to use those words to explain or to answer the question, did the methane lake on Titan freeze or evaporate? These are due on Thursday. Okay? All right. Hope to see you on Thursday.